Hello and welcome to my next video. This video features former coloured middleweight champion Joe Butler. So let us go through the career of Joe Butler, beginning with his major opponents. So Joe Butler, fought former coloured middleweight champion the Black Pearl Harris Martin on one occasion, scoring a win. He also scored a win over former coloured champion C.C. Smith, also gaining win over former coloured middleweight champion Ed Binney. Next up is Frank Craig, another former coloured middleweight champion. Joe Butler fought him on two occasions, scoring one win and one loss with no draws. And he also fought to a draw against Old Chocolate George Godfrey, not to be confused with the George Godfrey from Dempsey's era. Next up, former coloured heavyweight champion Bob Armstrong. Joe Butler fought him on two occasions, suffering two defeats, and he also suffered two defeats to former coloured heavyweight champion Frank Childs. Next up is the Galveston Giant Jack Johnson, the great heavyweight. Joe Butler fought him on one occasion, suffering a defeat, and he also suffered a defeat in his fight to the dangerous Baltimore Demon, young Peter Jackson. Next up is Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. Butler also fought him on one occasion, suffering one defeat, and he twice fought and lost, to the Irish puncher Peter Marr. Next up, contender Frank Slavin. Joe Butler fought him on two occasions as well, scoring one win, one loss and no draws, and Joe Butler also fought and defeated Jim Daly before twice fighting Adolphus McCabe, suffering two defeats. He also suffered two defeats to contender Jack Bonner. So, on we go to slide 2 for Joe Butler. He fought George Cole, the Pennsylvania Terror, suffering a defeat in a singular fight. Joe Butler then scored a win over former contender Al Weinig before losing the last three fights featured on here. The first was to well-travelled contender Kid Carter. He then lost to Irish middleweight Mike Donovan and also lost a singular fight to Charlie Stevenson. So there's 27 fights highlighted there. Joe Butler scored 7 wins with 19 losses and 1 draw from those 27 fights. So on we go to knockouts and rounds boxed. Joe Butler scored 32 knockouts. He scored 26 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and he scored 12 first round wins. Now he scored 3 KOs against champions, 0 against Hall of Famers, and 2 KOs against pound for pounders. Joe Butler scored 0 KOs against rated fighters. And in terms of rounds boxed, Butler only fought 233. He was a big puncher, finished a lot of fights early himself, as you can see, and also was what I call a vulnerable puncher, someone who could get knocked out as well. Joe Butler fought 20 title fight rounds. He fought totals of 44 rounds against champions, 4 rounds against Hall of Famers, and 17 rounds against pound for pound fighters. Being a pre-rating era fighter, Joe Butler fought no rounds against top 10 fighters, top 3 fighters, or ring champions. So Joe Butler on to the slide against champions. He had 13 fights in total, scoring 4 wins with 8 losses and 1 draw. Joe Butler beat 4 individual champions. They were C.C. Smith, Ed Binney, Frank Craig and Harris Martin, and he scored knockout or stoppage over 3 of those 4 champions individually: C.C. Smith, Ed Binney and Frank Craig. So moving on to the Hall of Fame slide for Joe Butler, he had 2 fights against Hall of Famers, suffering 2 defeats. Jack Johnson and Jack O'Brien, of course. So he defeated no individual Hall of Famers and also scored knockouts over 0 individual Hall of Famers. And when we go to the pound for pound slide, Joe Butler has a record of 8 fights against pound for pound rated fighters. Butler scored 2 wins with 6 losses and no draws. He defeated 2 individual pound for pound fighters. They were Frank Craig and Frank Slavin, and he scored knockout or stoppage over both of them individually. So he has knocked out 2 pound for pound fighters, Frank Craig and Frank Slavin. So, powering through Joe Butler, we have 3 slides to go. The first of them is rated opponents. It still irks me to this day. I saw, was it George in the group? talking about ratings, pre-ring ratings. I've long said that's a project I'd love to do. I just don't have the time at the moment. But yeah, it'd be fascinating to start building ratings up and then building a more accurate picture of rated opponents for many of these fighters. Not Joe Butler, but some others who would hit astronomical numbers. So Joe Butler, as he is, okay, due to no ratings, has no fights against top 10 rated opponents, top 3 fighters, or ring champions. Thus, by default, he has defeated 0 rated fighters and scored knockouts over 0 rated fighters. Now, Joe Butler did have 5 title fights in his career. He had a record of 2 wins with 3 losses and no draws. Joe Butler made 1 title defence and he scored 2 title fight KOs. Now, with no fights against rated opponents, he of course has no title fight wins against top 10 fighters, top 3 fighters or ring champions. He also has 0 wins against champions, Hall of Famers and pound-pounders overall. So there's his title fight stat slide on 2 titles won. Okay, Joe Butler, the world title he held was the coloured middleweight title. He was never a lineal champion in the established lineal lines, nor was he an undisputed champion. So there's the video on former coloured middleweight champion and puncher Joe Butler. Okay, he'll join my middleweight playlist. I will do a second video later today featuring another fighter to make up for the fact I didn't do one yesterday. There'll also be 2 videos coming tomorrow. So off and cooking into the year. So I will leave it there with Joe Butler. Good puncher, vulnerable himself. Mixed in very good company indeed. I'm the Boxing Librarian. I'm out for now.